course, I could have been wrong. I could be wrong. But it doesn't seem like we were wrong. We've been lied to.
Even if things did go wrong, let's just assume that things went wrong.
Yeah.
But the worst case scenario, economically, is better than where we are today.
But the thing is, if you walk down our main street now, there's more closed shops than many people I've spoken to have ever seen in their entire lives.
Wow.
Cheaper food, clothing and footwear, which we will get when we are free to set our own economic policies.
Well, now what's happening is we cannot get goods through. So, for example, Morrison's, you cannot get half of the goods you used to. You cannot.
You tell me, what is freedom worth?
After my previous adventures in Paris, Barcelona, Venice and Berlin, I've turned my focus to Gibraltar, a unique corner of the UK that relies heavily on its ties with Europe. With new EU border checks on the horizon, including fingerprinting and facial scans, Gibraltar faces a looming crisis. It has 15,000 workers crossing daily from Spain to keep its economy afloat. Facts seemingly ignored by Brexiteers. Some might call it a failure of planning. I'm calling it a stab in the back. So I've hit the streets of Gibraltar to hear from the people themselves, asking how they feel about Brexit, how it's affected them personally, and if they've got a message for Farage or the UK. So, how's Brexit affected Gibraltar from your perspective? Has it affected it?
Yes, it definitely has affected it. I think in terms of, if I think about my life on a day-to-day basis, I think about my friends and family. And so crossing in and out of the border, Gibraltar's quite small. A large part of our life is going to Spain on a regular basis. So it's made movement and access to movement a bit more difficult. So I think that's probably the main effect. There are many, many others, but that's the one that I see.
It is so clear that the people were lied to. We were sold that it's going to be much better. And it's so clear now that it's not. Now we have, even for example, let's do a deal, and there are 10 options for deals, and the British government, no for this option, no for the Iceland option, no for the Canada option, no. What the is going on with the British government?
The way we were with before Brexit, it wasn't all that bad. And now with this problem of, with Brexit, I believe that, things are going to get a bit sticky, and unfortunately, we are the losers, Britain decided to withdraw. Well, we are British, therefore we had to accept what they are. But I mean, in that case, they're an island apart from us, but we are just beside Spain, and that is a normal, routine, daily nuisance. Unfortunately, it's a frontier, we had to abide by it.
Of course it's going to affect us, the Brexit deal. The border, the queues on the border, the buying and selling. We the British, the highest purchaser is the European Union. We sell more to the European Union than to any other country. So we are shooting ourselves in the foot.
Got the system where we, like me, I've got a red ID card because I am a Gibraltarian, and I can go over and come back whenever I want. But they can change the rules, like they've done. They've done a couple of weeks back. They just changed the rules, and at 7 o'clock in the morning when everybody was coming into work, they decided, they decided to change the rules without giving any advance notion of what was going on, and everybody had to have their passport stamped and checked, and we had massive queues, people coming very late to work, really massive queues, a big problem. We had to have the government intervene. What happened was that if they started there, well, we have the Borders and Coast Guard locally have the orders that if they start, we have to start to reciprocate, because we have to reciprocate. We don't have to just sit down. So there was a big problem. That happened a couple of weeks back. And then they said, within 2 or 3 hours, they stopped it because the problems they had of people coming into Gib was people were late for work. It was tremendous. Those are people, 15,000 people trying to get into Gib, and everybody having the passport stamped and everything. That would be chaos.
What's wrong with the government, with the British government? It's like they don't seem to know what they are doing.
It's not a good thing for Gibraltar, and it's not a good thing for the UK, but obviously we have to respect the wishes of the majority of the people of the UK who voted very narrowly actually for Brexit. I think that was a mistake because, in my opinion, maybe the vote should have been after 60% majority. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear
It
that.
was too close, in my opinion. And people like, for example, in Gibraltar's case, it affects us because we depend on a fluid border. So it's different to people maybe living in UK. And I think even now in UK, they're coming to realize that it's been a gross mistake, because things are never going to be the same. And it's you know, I mean, with all its faults, because I do realize that there are faults in the European Union, and a lot of people are against, you know, having to be dictated to, as some people consider. But it's better to be in a club that has lots of benefits. Obviously, it also has its it also has its negative things, but you know, majoritively, it's better to be inside than out of the club.
How do you think it's affected Gibraltar as a whole? Has it been a benefit? Because obviously Brexit's meant to have lots of benefits.
We haven't seen the benefits, no, because we didn't get that many immigrants, I think. I mean, Gibraltar lives, I don't know if the word is cosmopolitan, it lives very happily with people, like, with all the religions and all the faiths. You know, we have Moroccan workers here since time immemorial when the frontier was closed. And it's very happy with all the different sides, and we get on well together. So we weren't pushing anybody away to begin with. And I believe that UK mostly voted for this because to stop so many immigrants coming and all that. So I personally don't believe in that. I think the world is for everyone, and everybody should cross frontiers with total liberation. But then I suppose that there must be some rules in place, but then I wouldn't know how to work that out. I'm not a politician, but I think that, you know, that the world should be freer.
I don't really think it's affected much, really. Apart from the frontier, you know, the usual thing that they play about on the frontier, and that's about it, really.
Many online gaming companies have moved over to other EU nations, and things are not as easy as it was before in that sense. But as I said before, until that agreement is signed or not, I still don't know what's going to happen.
So it's affected Gibraltar in a tremendous amount of ways. I mean, from the just cost of buying things in the supermarket, the range of things available in the supermarket, to the certainty of being able to run your business and get customers in, just across the board, really. But I think the biggest impact right now is everyone really worried about what potential deal we could have. And this is a deal that we've been waiting for 6 years, thinking that we were just inches away from it. So obviously that creates a huge amount of uncertainty. No one wants to invest, no one wants to buy a house, no one wants to start a business. And yeah, just a tremendous amount of uncertainty.
Actually, we're on the rock now. It's one thing I do like doing, walking, hiking, that sort of stuff. Before all the troubles with the border, which Brexit mostly affected, I used to go over into Spain, do lots of hikes and walks in Spain, and most of that for me now is gone. I still enjoy coming up and down the rock in Gibraltar, but it's severely limited.
There's a lot of Spanish workers in La Línea, the neighbouring town, coming into Gibraltar, and most of the workforce in Gibraltar is Spanish nationality, so they'll have a hard time too, you know, so it makes life difficult because we've got lots of carers and people working in hospitals and catering and wait and bar people, and most of the workers, like they work in Gibraltar, so that'll make it hard for them if we reciprocate. What's the word?
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's funny because Nigel Farage's party seems hell-bent on being anti-immigration, and yet Gibraltar has to have it.
Yes,
so what do you, I mean, what do you do with that? It's like, again, being ignored.
Yes, sort of being ignored, yes. I mean, I know probably the government in Gibraltar will try their best to get a deal. We don't want to aggravate our neighbours, but at the same time, you know, it's not our next door neighbours like in La Línea and the neighbouring towns. It's coming from Madrid, and they're much harsher because they don't see the reality of the everyday life. You know?
I get the feeling that neither political side really even care. It's just like,
That's
you're almost
it.
like a toy to be played with.
Exactly, yeah, that's what I think so, yeah, as well.
It's terrible. All the food gets rotten on the frontier. There's a big the lorries waiting. They make it difficult, even more difficult each time. So there is a problem. So many companies have gone under because we were using the transport Whereas before everything was by boat, before everything took longer, but now we're going back. Instead of going forwards, we're going back.
Have you noticed any differences with the pricing and food prices since Brexit, or?
Oh yeah, definitely. The food prices have gone up the roof. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about it. Everything has to be imported. Therefore, we have to pay the consequences. I don't think that, any arrangement with the union will make any difference at all, because prices go up and they'll never go down again. Never again.
It tends to only ever go one way.
And that's all worldwide anyway.
I can imagine a lot of Brexiteers who are going to watch this are just going to be like, so what? You just got to get a stamp. It's not that bad. Any response to that? I'm playing devil's advocate, as you can tell.
Yeah. Well, I think a question to the question would be, Brexit was supposed to be all about taking back control, but ultimately all it's done to us is remove complete control from us. Because 6 years ago, if me and my partner wanted to go over into Spain to do some shopping, to go on a hike, to do whatever we wanted, we could just walk in. We knew that our rights were guaranteed as EU citizens. We had access to healthcare. We had access. We felt more safe. Whereas now, every time we cross that frontier, it's not up to us. It's up to the EU politicians that Brexiteers have complained about, and it's up to the Spanish border guards whether we will be allowed in.
It's just complete damage, and frankly, no one in the UK seems to give a flying shit about Gibraltar, especially the people that cause us, the Brexiteers. They've lost control of the border. They seem to be harassed at any time they try and develop out into the sea, which they desperately need because they have a housing shortage, food prices have gone up, they have less choice, and they need immigration to keep Gibraltar going, and of course Nigel and his team want to hammer that as well. One of the interesting things that came out of the interview was Gibraltarians high up in the political scene were saying to me, well, they used to be able to go to the UK if they needed help, or they could go to the EU if the UK wouldn't help. Now the EU is on the side of Spain, and the UK seems to have dumped them. So, here's some messages from Gibraltarians to Nigel Farage and the UK government.
Do you have a message for Nigel Farage?
Well, Michael Farage is the one that started all these nonsense, really, because he told the British public one thing, and then afterwards it turned out to be something different altogether.
The thing is that when the time came, nobody cared. We're only 30,000, so nobody cared. Nobody cared.
Nigel Farage, well, it's very easy for him to, all the lies he spewed out, because saying that, I think it was 350 million pounds were going to go into the NHS, and all these lies that they were sold, and unfortunately many gullible people, believed his lies. And the campaign he did was quite effective in the sense that look at where we are today. So I would say, and a bit hypocritical on his part, because he wanted the UK to get out of the EU, but he was there for a long time as EU MP and earning a lot of thousands of euros. So
and doing no work.
Yeah.
One meeting in the fishing commission.
Yeah.
And turns out fishing's been the hardest hit, and he promised it was going to be the
that's what
the
I mean
better
to
off.
say. They've been fed a lot of lies.
I think I tend to try and be quite a diplomatic person and hold my tongue where possible.
We're free speech here, so you can.
I can see what I want. No, I think if I would just say I wish you'd have paid more attention when you went to school, read your history books, and educated yourself a bit better. That would be what I would say.
As the UK Parliament, I will tell everyone in the UK that Gibraltar is still British, 100%. We still want to maintain it that way, whether we are EU or not. And remember to please make us form part of the UK family, whether it's with an MP representing 100% the Gibraltar residents, locals and nation, and make us form part of your family. That's how we avoid our neighbour grabbing any little inch of our land.
I actually got an email from Nigel Farage asking to interview me about the withdrawal agreement. I said absolutely not, as the architect of someone who's done so much harm to Gibraltar. I think the message would be to just come down here to the ground and see the ways it's affecting people. I mean, basic things like my girlfriend and I, we used to go to the supermarket in Spain on the weekends just to do our weekly shop. And now, because she was born in the UK, she has to get her passport stamped every time. She has to take questions from the border guards just for basic things that Gibraltarians have been doing for the last 50 years. All of a sudden now, because of British politicians who've never been here, our lives are just being made so much more difficult.
Do you have a message for Nigel Farage then, as he was one of the lead instigators for this?
To be quite honest, the less I talk about that man, the better. I call things childish, like I did just then, but he's one of the biggest children out there. Just seeing how he acts in the European law courts and stuff like that, it's an embarrassment. Really is an embarrassment to the British.
And there you have it. The Gibraltarians have obviously said they do not like Nigel Farage, and they're pretty unhappy with Brexit. Interestingly though, we're not done, because I'm going to have to go across the border and see what people living in Spain think of this situation.
And I think recently the people just over the border in Linear, I think they're getting affected a little bit as well, because like I said, we go over there and spend money.
Yep.
So it's livelihoods over there. I think it's only about 2-3 weeks ago they actually had a demonstration in Linear.
They did.
To show it. So I mean, it's not just affecting Gibraltarians. It's I don't know what the name for it, Lilinians, but it's affecting them as well. So you know, I do put it down mostly just politicians trying, tit for tat sort of thing. It's stupid, it's childish, but that's the world we live in, unfortunately.
If you got this far, leave your thoughts in the comments and hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you to all my patrons and YouTube members. You keep this channel going and growing. And if you'd like to help out the channel, there's a link in the description. Once again, thanks for listening. Bye for now.